This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans. It's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. Wrestling fans finally remember the lovable losers who counted the lights for their opponents weekly in the WWF. Things evolved in the 90s as more jobbers gained their own identities and even a gimmick to go with it. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at 8 legendary WWF jobbers from the 1990s. Before we get started though, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Whether you call them jobbers, preliminary wrestlers, or enhancement talent, these wrestlers weren't in it to win it, but to make their opponents look like $1 million and give wrestling fans an idea of what an opponent could do in the ring. As we've discussed in past videos observing the wonderful world of winless wrestlers, these talents came from various backgrounds. Some were former greats who lost a step with age. Others were up-and-coming performers looking to make a name for themselves. Others were capable wrestlers who lacked the look, opportunity, or X factor that made their colleagues into stars. Whatever the case, these wrestlers all served a vital role in wrestling, and their contributions should never be ignored or understated. Wrestling's Greatest Moments recently covered several 90s jobbers and our wrestlers who went from hero to zero video, so check it out for more information on vintage enhancement talents like TL Hopper, The Goon, and several others. As always, more jobber videos are coming, so don't worry if we didn't mention one of your favorites or someone from outside the WWF. ELO Montoya. ELO Montoya is a good example of the WWF's approach to booking jobbers to the stars in the 1990s. Montoya's skills were undeniable, and he knew how to make his opponents look great without injuring anyone. Montoya worked as enhancement talent in the WWF as PJ Walker, before it transformed him into the colorfully and equally gaudily attired masked wrestler ELO Montoya, aka the Portuguese Man of War. Like many a Portuguese Man of War, Aldo got stepped on, but in his case, he rarely stung, defeating low-level enhancement talent, but usually counting the lights for anyone in the mid-card and above. Montoya was friends with the WWF's backstage faction, The Clique, but even this group of top stars couldn't help him get rid of the ridiculous mask he wore to the ring, with some fans snarking that it resembled a jockstrap, or getting him a decent push. Thankfully for Aldo, he got a new lease on life when he obtained his WWF release in 1997. Aldo went to ECW, working as Just Incredible and succeeding in Paul Heyman's promotion as its World Heavyweight and World Tag Team Champion. He returned to the WWF during the Invasion angle, working as his ECW character Just Incredible. Louis Spicoli. Extremely talented, Louis Spicoli's personality made it seem possible that he might get over in wrestling, despite his size limitations. He began his pro career as a teenager, quickly mastering the art of making opponents look good. As mentioned in other videos on enhancement talents, the WWF was always looking for quality job guys, and Spicoli's skills kept him in high demand. Outside the WWF, Louis competed in Mexico, including his role in AAA as Madonna's boyfriend alongside Conan, Art Barr, and Eddie Guerrero. Spicoli was repackaged in the WWF as Rad Radford, a plus-size wrestler who wanted to join the fitness-obsessed Body Donnas. Despite an amusing run as a Body Donna in training, Louis' personal demons repeatedly deep-sixed his career in the WWF and ECW, which both released him. A promising turn as a junior member of the New World Order ended after Spicoli died in 1998 at age 27. Duke the Dumpster Droese. Was Duke the Dumpster Droese an example of how empty the WWF's rumored box of gimmicks was getting? No, this was actually a case of recycling, as Michael Droese, the Duke behind the dumpster, was already using the gimmick on the indie scene. During an interview with Interactive Wrestling Radio, Droese revealed, "I was wrestling as the Garbage Man, Rocco Gibraltar, down in Florida. I worked on it for a long time. The reason I did it is because I knew that this was the kind of thing that Vince McMahon would probably grab a hold of. I remember the Big Boss Man as a police or prison guard gimmick, and it just felt like something the World Wrestling Federation would have done in the late 80s, early 90s. According to Duke, he worked a handful of WWF dark matches before he was hired. While he concocted his Garbage Man gimmick, he said it got him into the company, and I pretty much just kept doing what I was doing. except they changed the name to Duke the Dumpster. The creative staff maybe went a little more in that day job direction after I came in. Another story has surfaced considering how Drozy made it to the WWF. In the book Titan Sinking, James Dixon argues Vince McMahon was so confident that he could make literally anyone a star that he boasted about being able to turn the worst wrestler in the world into a mainstream success with the power of his creative genius. Calling his bluff, one quick-thinking staffer showed Vince a copy of Pro Wrestling Illustrated's brand new PWI 500, a list of the supposed top 500 performers in the industry. It was pointed out to Vince that a wrestler called Garbage Man was listed at number 500. "Hire him," Vince barked. "I'll prove it. We will make him a WWF superstar." Thus, Mike Droz was hired, giving the alliteration treatment, a pair of fresh overalls from the company seamstress, and the prerequisite object to carry to the ring. A garbage can, of course. Then let loose. There's no telling how long Duke the Dumpster would have lasted in the WWF, as he requested his release, reportedly due to the stress of the WWF's travel schedule. Droz was released in 1996. He wrestled occasionally from there, and last appeared in a WWF ring at WrestleMania X7's Gimmick Battle Royal. Bastion Booger. Did the Archbishop of New York really get on the WWF's case when it repackaged Mike Shaw, aka WCW's Norman the Lunatic, among many previous gimmicks, as Friar Ferguson, the wrestling version of a monk? That's the official story, and while it might be hard to believe the same man who not only created his own religion, McMahonism, and paired Shawn Michaels with God in a tag team match, would worry about ecclesiastical matters. Nonetheless, Mike Shaw would recall, "I heard they got calls from different religious organizations thinking that was terrible to have a monk on TV wrestling." Regardless, the WWF dropped the gimmick and created Bastion Booger, whose gimmick revolved around his slovenly appearance and fondness for picking his nose, eating trash, and engaging in behavior that would make Miss Manners' head explode. Bastion Booger was a jobber to the stars, and while he lasted just over a year in the WWF, he was immortalized as a WWE action figure. Salvatore Sincere. Tom Brandi was an established star when he joined the WWF. Brandi, who had worked in Eastern Championship Wrestling, WCW, and Puerto Rico's American Wrestling Federation, was part of an influx of talented veterans brought in to serve as jobbers to the stars. These high-end enhancement talents were given gimmicks, and in Brandi's case, he became Salvatore Sincere. Brandi did remarkably well in his new role. According to James Dixon, he had actually performed beyond the Federation's expectations of him in his stereotypical mafioso role, outlasting each of the other TV-only stars hired alongside him in the summer. As seen in our video From Hero to Zero, the veteran wrestler saddled with awful gimmicks like plumber T.L. Hopper or hockey player turned wrestler The Goon didn't last long. Dixon raises a good point about why Brandi's Salvatore Sincere gimmick failed. Brandi became a fully fledged member of the roster, though the limitations of his character ended up his downfall. The following year, he was outed as just a gimmick by Mark Merrill, who referred to Brandi by his real name. It was an angle that achieved little, serving only to strip Brandi of the proxy personality he was given. The WWF's slow evolution into the Attitude Era meant the end of its goofy gimmicks from the New Generation era. Although the WWF certainly created some WrestleCrab-worthy gimmicks in the Attitude Era, Beaver Cleavage standing out as the worst, Brandi got lost in the shuffle and exited the WWF in 1998. A reminder of how tricky it is to make a work-shoot promo play out. Brandi continued his career on the indie circuit, including a run under a mask as a Patriot, albeit without the blessing or permission of the original Patriot, Del Wilkes. Dwayne Gil, Gilberg. Dwayne Gil was an enhancement talent who was in the right place at the right time when WCW strapped a rocket to Bill Goldberg's back and started a phenomenon with a bald muscle man who bulldozed through opponents and shouted, "Who's next?" In Gil's case, he'd spent years counting the lights, but his uncanny resemblance to Goldberg, minus about 100 pounds of muscle, led to Gil's metamorphosis into Gilberg. Gil had enjoyed a career as enhancement talent in the WWF for most of the 1990s, including a recurring enhancement team with Barry Hardy. Everything changed in 1998. According to Gil, he was using the Gilberg gimmick on the indie scene, along with others such as Stone Old, Steve Austin, and The Undertaker. In 2018, Gil told Wrestling Inc.'s Andy Malnoskow, "I was talking to Paul Bearer and Kane in the locker room one night, and Paul Bearer goes, 'Oh, Dwayne Gil, you may have something there.' The next thing I know, the office is calling me and telling me, 'Bring your Gilbert stuff. You're gonna be Gilbert.'" Gilbert was a hilarious parody that dialed down the over-the-top aspects of Goldberg's character, chief among them his entrance. While Goldberg's entrance featured a swarm of security guards walking him to the ring as he proceeded through fireworks and fog, Gilbert walked out to two people holding sparklers and spraying a fire extinguisher. Gilbert chants were piped into the arena, a play on the accusations that WCW piped Goldberg chants in during his entrance. Astonishingly, the gimmick went from a one-night-only appearance into an extended run. It was actually supposed to be a one-night deal. When I came back through the curtain, I got the highest honor I ever received in pro wrestling. When I came through that curtain, every McMahon, every writer, producer, boys, everybody in the back that was working was standing there clapping and had tears in their eyes because they were laughing so hard. That's the highest honor I ever got. Unfortunately for Dwayne, the man he was goofing on wasn't a fan. In 2011, Gil claimed, "Goldberg hates my guts. He wanted to kill me. I remember the night I did meet him, the night we did the rock concert, where I was dancing all the ring and all." However, Goldberg eventually changed his mind, according to Gil. "About 5 years later, I met him, and he was super cool and understood everything. He's really cool about everything now." Despite Gilbert winning the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship, he continued putting over marquee opponents, often in non-title matches. That didn't stop the WWF from putting him in the spotlight, such as when he pinned Goldust with an assist from the Blue Meanie, or challenged Triple H unsuccessfully for the WWF Championship. In 2003, Goldberg showed up during the Rock concert during the Great One's feud with Bill Goldberg. Barry Horowitz. Barry Horowitz was another enhancement talent from the 1990s who achieved legendary status. As detailed in our video, Learning to Win, the Barry Horowitz story, Horowitz was considered the elite of the elite when it came to putting opponents over, a reflection of his work in the 1980s and his continued success in the 90s. Interestingly, the WWF used an angle Barry was involved in from the 80s, where he went from zero to hero, scoring an upset win and enjoying a moderate push. Although Horowitz eventually returned to his losing ways, he could always be counted on for entertaining matches, and fans enjoyed his brief moment in the sun. Virgil. Although Virgil largely served as cannon fodder during his run as Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase's bodyguard, Virgil did team up with Ted occasionally. When Virgil split from DiBiase after years of abuse, he began wrestling and even won DiBiase's Million Dollar Championship. However, as noted in our video, The Life and Times of WWE Superstar Virgil, his push was short-lived and became another jobber to the stars. Do you remember these 1990s WWF Jobbers to the Stars? Should promoters bring back jobbers and jobbers to the stars? Who are your favorites, and what other stars would you like to see profiled? Share your thoughts in the comment section and let us know if there's any videos you'd like Wrestling's Greatest Moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on X and Instagram, and spread the good news about Wrestling's Greatest Moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.